Welcome to Being a Successful Leader with Carl Welty. Carl is a leadership pioneer with years of challenging leadership and consulting experience. Here's Carl with some valuable insights, practical and proven methods for being a successful leader.
Greetings out there. Carl Welty here, your host for the continuing podcast series, Being a Successful Leader. We have a new episode every week, and they run from 15 minutes to a half hour. They revolve around what I call my three leadership imperatives. Number one being, starting with you, being a successful leader, and the need to have be a self-aware and skillful leader. And then we move to the second imperative, which is having a sound strategy, both with the identity of your organization, be it organization as a whole or an organizational entity, that is who we are, or why we exist, and what we stand for. And then we move to direction, which is where we're going, what it looks like when we're there, and how we're going to get there. In other words, actionable vision, and then strategies and actions. Then we move to the third imperative, which is the having a culture of commitment. So you have a sound strategy, but you got to get people enthused about it. So rather than have a culture of compliance, you want to work towards a culture of commitment. So anyway, those are the three leadership imperatives. Being a successful leader requires, number one, you being a self-aware and skillful leader. Number two, a sound strategy. Number three, a culture of commitment. I should mention here at the outstart that you can go back and catch any of the previous episodes. We're up to 40 now by going to webtalkradio.net, and then go over to channels, and then scroll down to the icon being a successful leader, and you'll find all the previous podcasts there to review or to hear for the first time. Also, 3 books I have, a book for each of the 3 leadership imperatives. You can catch those on welty.com, and you can get go over and hit leadership resources, and you can get the a brief description of each and how to order them through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or the publisher, Ewing's Publishing. Okay. The idea here is the intent is to provide you with valuable insights and practical and proven know-how. I've been around the subject a long time, leadership and organization effectiveness, team effectiveness. It's been a passion of mine. I've been fortunate to be able to feed that passion throughout the years through being a leader in various organizations, including volunteer organizations and trade associations, that sort of thing, as well as large and small organizations. And then also being able to do a lot of research and training and coaching and consulting. So anyway, I've amassed what I consider to be a lot of practical stuff, and that's what I'm trying to do in this episode, to provide you with the practical and proven know-how and some valuable insights. All right, the topic today is meetings, damn meetings. And I chose that title purposely because meetings for many people are kind of a bad thing, something to avoid, my God. But they shouldn't be that. Meetings can be a very, very productive, effective way for you as a leader to work with your group in terms of problem solving, decision making, action planning, that sort of thing. And the problem is that many of the meetings are poorly planned and poorly managed. And so what we're trying to do today here in this little episode is to provide you with some ideas on how to make your meetings more productive, interesting, effective, and regardless of the kind of meeting. So that's our goal here today for the next few minutes. The types of meetings, there are all kinds, right? Board meetings, stand-up meetings, staff meetings, special purpose meetings like for planning or budgeting, committee meetings, project team meetings, ad hoc meetings, etc. So all kinds. And what we're going to be talking about here, really you can use in all these kinds of meetings, perhaps staff meetings being the top vehicle, which we can use these ideas we're going to be talking about today. But it pertains to all of them. Now, basic considerations regarding meetings, fundamental stuff here. First of all, make sure there's a need for the meeting. Sometimes things get started and they just go on and on and on without asking the question, do we really still need to do this? Purpose of the meeting. We need to be clear about what our purpose is. The membership of the meeting, the folks attending the meeting on an ongoing basis or ad hoc basis. The timing, how often you're going to do this and how long generally is it going to take. And meeting management, the planning of the meeting, the execution of the meeting, and follow on. Some basic considerations for any kind of meeting. Okay. Again, I said staff meetings, you'll find this particularly valuable for your staff meetings, but it pertains to any meeting. And the reasons for poor meetings, again, any meeting, but maybe staff meetings in particular, we can chalk them up as boring, inadequate planning, lack of meaningful participation, lack of continuity, connecting the meetings one from the other, and what Patrick Lencioni calls meeting stew. We throw everything into this big bucket and stir it around and so forth. And then we have important items and not important items and so forth. And the idea that we'll come back to, but the need to separate your operating or tactical items from your strategic items. Very, very important. We've emphasized in my book on strategy and also the episodes we've had to separate in terms of executing your strategy. You need to pay attention to it, and you need to lead the way and walk the talk the talk, but also have strategy meetings separate from your operating meetings, okay? Whether it could be weekly, quarterly, whatever, depends on the objective or the purpose of the strategy meeting. But that's very, very important versus meetings too, where you're talking about a key strategic initiative that you have, and the next item is the Christmas party. Well, come on, separate those. And another is a reason for poor staff meetings is a lack of group cohesion. So let's deal with some of these issues here, the remedies, if you will. One practice I hardly recommend to you is what I call team agreements. You'll find this in the Building Commitment book in Chapter 6 on growing teams. And what this is all about, it's not like the identity of an ongoing organizational entity like your division or your organization as a whole, but it has to do with a special group of folks that get together, your leadership team, your project team, whatever, and getting commitments to one another, not about your purpose and everything, but how you're going to conduct each other as you interface. Two parts to it. One is to get commitments around key items, key behaviors that you're going to commit to, and then another is to attach to those commitments accountabilities. How are we going to assure that we're going to abide by these? How are we going to, control this and call it out to one another? It needs to be very, very candid and very, very worth your time. So commitments and then accountabilities for the commitments. Now, examples of commitments for a group that gets together periodically could be full participation. I'm just giving you some examples. Full participation could be a commitment. We need you all to join in here and be part of this, not just a bump on a pickle here. Another example of a possible commitment would be being authentic with one another, being open and honest with one another. I'm just going to give you four. A third of example could be constructive conflict. Conflict is, as I've often said in these podcasts, constructive conflict is something not to be avoided, but something to nurture. You don't want relationships conflict, but conflict about ideas, thoughts, plans, that sort of thing. You get better thoughts, better ideas, better plans by people being involved and having divergent points of view, and then constructively managing those and communicating about those divergent points of view. And the last one I wrote down was preparation. So those are some examples about the group members maybe agreeing to commitments around things like full participation, being authentic with one another, constructive conflict, and preparing for the meeting. You'd come up with your own with your group. And what you want to do with each one is define what you mean by them. What do you mean by full participation? What do you mean by preparation? Have an operating definition for each and then come up with how you're going to hold each other accountable. So that's number one in terms of remedies for overcoming causes of poorly managed meetings, team agreements. Second one I have is overcoming boredom. Think of maybe having a meeting like entering some drama into it. I mean, having some surprises, some suspense, the idea of not knowing, and together you come up with a solution or you plan an action, that sort of thing. Like a movie. What makes a good movie a good movie? Well, a lot of it is suspense, drama, not knowing, surprise. And the same could hold true for meetings. So what the problem is that you want to focus on the current and the future, not the past. And so many meetings are just a recap of the past. And so many of the stuff about data and reports, and they can do that ahead of time. The team attendees, the meeting attendees, they can do that ahead of time. So don't waste time in the meeting going over the reports, or make that a preparation requirement. And then they come ready. They're up to date on the report. And you talk about the ramifications, the implications of the report. So focus on the current and the future, not the past. The past can be taken care of outside the meeting. An interesting exercise, and I've often done this in groups I've been a member of or headed or just attended meetings, is to track time spent on past versus current and future items in a meeting. That's kind of an interesting exercise. You might just do that sometime with your meeting or meetings that you're a part of, and then maybe share the information, having a little courage to do that. So the intent being to make it better. Okay, so remedies, team agreements, overcoming boredom. Another one is team tools, having facilitation tools. And this I hardly recommend. And a resource for you here is my building commitment book and a chapter on growing teams. You'll find at the back of that chapter lots of useful tools. I picked the ones I think are most valuable to you as a leader manager, and you can see them in there. And I hardly recommend you get acquainted with those, use those. And my experience is greatly that people like it. It's fun. You're working it out together, and each have a role. They're participating as you facilitate this problem-solving, decision-making, interaction planning. So get acquainted with team tools and use them, or get people in your group conversing with it, and they can kind of head the particular action item up in using team tools. Okay. Now another, we mentioned already, but another thing to do to avoid poor meetings is separate the operating items and the strategic items, and have separate strategic meetings, again, to pay attention to your sound strategy and implementing it. Now, another category is planning the meeting. Now, for recurring meetings, you're probably going to agree on an agenda and that sort of thing, and periodically review that agenda, make sure it still makes sense and there's a good flow to it and so forth. Here's a kind of a standing staff meeting agenda. You don't have to adapt this or adopt it, but it's worked pretty well in many organizations that I've been a part of, that I've led, and others I've coached on. But here's some ideas for you, and scramble around, change them, or ignore them, whatever. So agenda structure, going around the table. In other words, just kind of a quick update. It's kind of like a stand-up meeting, if you have those, where if you're all co-located or people even phone in or whatever, just a quick Monday morning or whatever, how's it going kind of thing. So quick going around the table. Second item might be important announcements, if there are any. The third one might be a follow-up on action items. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second here. Action items from previous meetings. So you've committed to do something or assigned somebody to do something. As we said before, what the boss inspects, the boss inspects. So inspect that and bring it back, and let's get a progress report. Okay. The next one in the agenda would be discussion items. Discussion items. You can get member, in fact, I recommend you get member input in advance, not just you all the time coming up with the agenda. And you can have a process where they provide you with inputs for the next meeting. And when you get those inputs, you want to make sure you have them articulate a desired outcome for this item and the estimated amount of time. And then you're going to take their items and your items and then look at the time and decide how to sort that out and sequence them. Okay. And then at the end of the meeting, and this is important, I heartily recommend that you, for your recurring meetings, especially your staff meetings, that you appoint a scribe, and you can rotate that role or, periodically. But this is somebody, it's an easy job, but it's an important job. This is somebody that's going to take notes. And what they're looking for is to jot down any conclusions that you guys have made in this particular meeting and any actions to be taken, conclusions and actions to be taken. And the actions would be what, who, and when. So just in a notepad, they're doing that. And then at the end of the meeting, you want to have the scribe read back what the conclusions are and the actions to be taken. And this is a good means of clarifying the commitments here. Is that what we agreed on? I'm supposed to do what again? That sort of thing. So you want people leaving under false impressions. So you clarify that at the end of the meeting, and very, very important. And then, as I said before, start the next meeting with action items, one of the top agenda items that you assigned to a particular team member. And then another thing in ending the meeting, besides reviewing conclusions and actions to be taken, is agreeing on communications outside your meeting. What do we want to tell people, not tell people? How are we going to tell it? Who's going to tell it? Very, very important. Okay, so when these members of your meeting leave, we're all on the same page, hopefully, on the what we're going to talk about and not talk about and how we're going to do it. Other considerations in making more meaningful meetings, besides the ones we've just talked about, is you want to keep things moving, keep them churning along. There may be special reports once in a while that you need to update people or have somebody come in and update people or one of the members update people. Rotate sites periodically in terms of where you hold a meeting. Maybe you go out to the field and have it once in a while out in one of the members' headquarters, what have you. Incorporate site guests. In other words, guest speakers and so forth, and field visits. Maybe go to one of the meeting members' sites, and they conduct a little field visit for you. All right, some ideas there. There's a lot there for you, and I really recommend that you go back and hear this again if you need to. But those are things that will really work if you follow those guidelines and have make productive meetings, especially your staff meetings. And you'll find it more fun, more productive, and the folks will certainly feel that way also. So go for it if you're not already doing those kinds of things. Preview of next episode next week. Continuing the theme of meetings, we go from staff meetings and all kinds of other meetings to what I call one-on-one meetings, or not me, but anybody calls one-on-one meetings. Again, heartily recommend it. This is where you meet with each of your key associates on a recurring basis. And again, whatever the timing and the length of meeting fits you and your team there. We'll talk a lot about that next week. And it's a great investment of time. A lot of people, well, who has time for it? Yeah, you better make time for it, because what's more valuable than spending quality time with each of your key associates, your key team members here. And it's a great opportunity to clarify roles and responsibilities, update roles and responsibilities, develop people, performance coaching, as I've talked about so often in the past. So highly recommend it. Next week, we'll go into some depth on how to conduct meaningful one-on-one meetings.